All right, Meta, I'll introduce you
Ah,
for your next topic.
okay. No segue. Got it. All right.
I
Can do this.
can't think of a creative one. Segue yourself.
All right. So, I'm not gonna do a segue. We're just gonna get right into this. Mortal Kombat 11 dropped out pretty recently. In fact, the 22nd. So that's about 3 days since from this recording. And to say the least about it, the core gameplay has changed a lot, but it is good. That's the general consensus from most people playing the game.
I've seen
But
people say it is the best gameplay ever.
well, they changed a lot of it. Some people do miss the older style of kind of like that
Mhm.
rush beat 'em down thing, but this game does put a lot more emphasis on. I'm gonna get into technical shit here, but in the neutral, where kind of like
Oh.
understanding like where your spacing is, your attacks, the frame rate, the frames of both their startup, their ending, and like on block, not on block if you're positive or negative, blah 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 blah. It's lots more emphasis on that. The combos are still there, so they're not gone. So if you love your long, awesome Mortal Kombat combos, they're still there. But there's a lot more emphasis on neutral. But this is done because a lot of pro players do like that kind of stuff a little bit more. It's not as entertaining unless you kind of know what's going on. Uh, I will say, like, trying to watch it is not as fun sometimes,
Mhm.
and it does suffer a little bit.
Where's
Um,
Reptile?
he's not there.
I
It
know.
does unfortunately suffer a little bit of what Injustice unfortunately has, which seems to be that like there is a lot of screen space and projectiles seem to be a very very strong
Mhm.
viable way to win fights as opposed to kind of outplaying your opponent. You can really whittle somebody's health bar down from just firing
Zone
projectiles.
them out.
Yeah, zoning is really really strong. So I don't know if that's gonna be changed or not. It's not really conducive to like what most people know Mortal Kombat to be, but that's the kind of thing. But we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about a more important thing and kind of lead into a bigger question on that is that it was recently just mathed out by a user on the Reddits, as the kids are calling it these days. Where it turns out you need about $6,440 something to unlock all content if you paid for it.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
So
Uh,
yeah. So the only other problem with this is that the bigger issue, the biggest issue, and to give credit where credit's due, it sounds like it's a lot of money, but that's specifically just for costumes because most characters have like 60 costumes each,
yeah.
and there are 23 characters, and you can unlock some of them through both the chests in game and the crypt, which I'm not going to even bother explaining. Or by just spending getting time crystals, which you can accrue through just playing the game and buying them that way. But if you were to do the math on it, it's about $6,440. Nothing else can be bought. It's all cosmetics. Nothing else. The problem is that people have done the time, have kind of looked at it and whatnot, and currently it is taking a very long time to unlock a lot of the stuff. The crypt utilizes about 4 different currencies, from coin to souls to hearts to I think one other I don't remember. But they're all their different currencies. They're all gained in different ways, but generally you do it through what's called the towers, um, which will give you different challenges of different varying levels and areas, and you can get them to do currency. Problem is that the towers can be very frustrating. Currently, you need a lot of collectibles to do it, and you need sometimes one-use collectibles and consumables just to get through the harder towers, which give the better rewards. Which the rewards are not that great for. Um, the other issue being is that a lot of the fights sometimes are very, 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 very difficult. And the bosses sometimes the boss quote unquote sometimes have absurd amount of health and whatnot. It makes the fights very challenging, very unfun, and an immense grind, which a lot of people have noted just from the start that it's going to take you weeks and weeks and weeks to unlock everything this way. Now, to be fair, they did drop out like a day one, day two patch, small patch where they could do something in the background because the way they built up the game brilliantly, and this is how more games should do it, is that they've implemented essentially a variable setup that they can change on the background, and essentially all it does is it just changes everything instantly. People get maybe disconnected once they pull out of whatever they're doing. Once they're like done with it, it won't kick them out, but once they're done, and they're completed, it'll kind of like say signing you out, then signs you back in, and then the update takes place. So they were able to at least change the effects of certain battle arena categories. They were able to reduce health and whatnot, but they have also stated that they're aware of like the amount of time that's going to take stuff. They don't want it to be this way. So good on NRS, NetherRealm Studios, for at least picking up on this, hearing what the fans are saying, which they've been doing through the whole process of building the game and whatnot to do it. But the biggest thing that came from it specifically was it was no longer about, spending my money and being microtransaction to death, so to speak. Although you could argue that paying $6,440 to unlock all the skins is definitely that kind of thing. But more that you were spending your time. People are still not sure how much these changes are going to affect things, because they said they're going to affect currencies and everybody's going to get a giant chunk of currency, but a lot of the items in the game, there's about 600 plus chests throughout the whole crypt, ranging anywhere from 2,000 something to 250 coins to unlock. That's not counting, mind you, every other item. Ones that might use hearts, ones that might use there's other items in there that will utilize the souls and the other type of currency. So that's just the chests, not the other ones that are maybe affected elsewhere. So there's a lot to go through, and we're not really sure how it's going to be, but currently, as we're seeing it, even with the potential update, we're still guesstimating that it's probably going to be a few weeks to just unlock everything, or at least to get close to unlocking, and this is for people who are pre-dedicated. There are some ways to abuse the time crystals, but the time crystals really aren't linked to anything but the costumes that come in. They change out like a roster, like about 5 of them or so. They change them out every number of hours. So, but that's kind of not linked to
every
everything
19 hours.
Yeah. So, you kind of got 2 different things going on all over the place. And it's kind of bringing the question of, at what point is it okay to like is it okay to like put in more microtransactions? Is paying with time an acceptable replacement for microtransactions to make the longevity of the game work? Which I think most people would probably say no. But more importantly, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, what do you feel is an okay amount of time to play a game to unlock everything? I mean, there's obviously going to be different from like hardcore players and casual players, but certainly there's got to be some acceptable range.
Let me be an oxymoron here, but I mean, it's similar but different to the way BFA did things in WoW, especially in the 8.1 patch, I believe, or when it's like, well, you're kind of like capped at the amount of artifact points you can grind out per week, essentially, and like the rolls on chests you can get and stuff to get your gear. You can't just keep grinding the dungeons over and over again because you get the keys. You just have to keep going up. And then when they eventually did the vendor stuff, you were capped at like basically how much. I can't remember the currency they used that you could buy basically re-rolls and rolls for new gear and stuff. So I guess this is kind of what we're going towards. They're like, oh, you don't like microtransactions? Let's just make it exceedingly grindy and more gacha-esque, which I don't think Mortal Kombat's necessarily doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
it's not. Yeah, it's not a gacha, but the point being made is the time is akin to that in that sense. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's the grind essentially.
Yeah, and I know not a lot of people are big fans of that at all, especially if you're a more casual player. You're generally going to be looking for specific things, and that's kind of where you stop.
Yeah, because we don't have any more. Back in the day, you always had the cheat code that would unlock everything. Yeah. So if you wanted to experience everything, you could, I guess, buy the magazine at your local grocery store and find that code, or hope one of your friends did and wrote it down for you in the pre-internet days.
There was also the Game Shark as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Which actually changed the hex code in the game to get you what you wanted, as long as someone understood what the hex code was supposed to be. So,
yeah. So my understanding is that the kind of grinding is very repetitive that you need to do. You can't. It's not like you can just play the game however you want. You have to play it in one specific repetitive way. Grind.
God, that makes it even worse.
Right. Which is just, and it's a Warner Brothers game, which a lot of the issues with trying to kind of pad the playtime through not great ways seems to be coming from them a lot. Like I know, was it Shadows of Mordor had a lot
Yeah,
of
that was
yes,
a
they
by
lot
the
of
time
that
you
same
got to the
stuff.
end game, like
Yes, they did.
you had to really either had to grind like crazy or just buy the level ups.
Yeah, I mean that is generally a thought that most people, I would say, well, not most people, I would say, but that is generally a thought that's kind of rippling through. Is that it likely is coming from Warner Brothers
Right.
side of stuff, because NRS themselves are big nerds. I mean, you literally follow the trail of what they've been doing since they've been doing like the combat casts and whatnot, and showing off all the information. They have been quite keen on listening to their players. So it doesn't really feel like this is something like, the developers or even Ed Boon, who's kind of running this whole thing and has been, part of the Mortal Kombat just game series for a very long time. It just doesn't seem like them, but it is an unfortunate kind of thing that has happened with the game all the same.
Yeah. Theoretically, I have no issue with like someone wanting to spend money to get all the everything unlocked, but I don't trust developers to implement that in a way that doesn't, isn't predatory or whatever. Like
Yeah.
because as people grow up, like we're starting to hit the the generation that sort of has grown up with video games their whole life. So now they're kind of realizing they don't have the time to play these games as much. Now they have jobs and more disposable income, so maybe they do want to just spend a little bit more money on the game to unlock everything. But I don't trust the developers. Like you just keep hearing about how they're using like psychology and gambling
Yeah, that's
stuff to prey upon people to keep them spending more when it's related to microtransactions in a full game, like a full $60 game.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating because I mean microtransactions in themselves. I mean if you go to like base, not to jump off the topic of it and to get into it, but like to keep it to grossly simplify. There have been studies and shown that like in psychological tests and whatnot that show that generally people are more willing to pay, even though they spend the same amount of money, if not more, on small little things, and they'll end up nickel and
Right.
diming themselves.
Yep.
But once you raise up the price, suddenly they don't want to see it because all they see is just a big number, not realizing that all those $5 transactions that they've made has actually costed twice than what they would have gotten from that one big buy.
Yeah, suddenly like 3 months in, you're like, holy shit, I've spent $200 on this.
Exactly, and it's like I didn't even mean to get close to spending $200, and even worse is when the games, unfortunately, when you see this with the very grindy games or akin to gacha games, which we're seeing a lot of popularity, obviously bleeding over into the West with more people picking them up because mobile has obviously been growing over the years and whatnot, and it's a humongous market over in China. I mean, we've talked about that before, but seeing that come over and seeing how games are almost designed with the idea to implement and do all those microtransactions, and you could still put $200 into a game and still not make like a dent into a half of what all the content is available for you.
Like have you seen like all the gacha games? Like you've seen like people who do like I spent $1,000 to see what characters I'll get, and they don't get all of them, or even there's no guarantee to get the one you want.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous.
We're talking about different forms of crack tonight. It seems like we got our cardboard crack, now our virtual crack.
But that's what it is. And I mean, now that there's been huge backlash in the game community, which is leading to what we see now, which is almost time as the currency, as opposed to actual currency as currency.
Yeah, it just seems like they're like, maybe we'll keep people playing just so that like. I guess it just looks good for investors. Maybe I don't even know why you'd want like to force people to keep playing it, even though like I don't know. I guess maybe
I'm not sure
they're just tricking people. I guess maybe they think they're having a good time doing the same thing over and over. I don't know.
it might be like uncharted territory. They're just not sure. Because I mean,
Right.
the game For Honor kind of suffered from the same thing. Somebody went out
Yeah,
and
it
did the
did.
math. If you like bought all the characters, got everything unlocked for them, it would cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of makes people think it's like, oh, well, I can just play for a while, and it's like, I didn't have to spend $1,000.
Yeah.
It's like almost like I have this stuff worth $1,000.
It's that. I mean, I guess to somebody who wants that $1,000 stuff, it'll be $1,000, but to the generally everybody else, probably not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, some people might be thinking, like, hey, I just had to play, and I have all this stuff worth $1,000, even though it's not really, because some costumes. But I don't know.
I kind of wish there really was just a package option where, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the transaction to unlock stuff. I mean, the biggest issue being is just that don't unlock anything that's going to give you a distinct advantage over the people who can't do that, and anything that matters, I guess, and content that matters anyway. Like, it's not going to matter if you're like to give an example for the card games. I mean, there's different formats, and then there's just like the format that's like anything goes. And at that point, it's like if you're playing in that format, you're kind of expected like anything just goes. And if somebody's got more buying power than you, they're going to probably have crazier things than you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're playing in that format for that reason. It's just to play with all the fun, crazy things that you can do with all the different versions that come out. Same thing for the games. That should be kind of applied to the concept here. But it would be really nice if maybe we could just get like a nice medium. Like if you pick up the game, and if you really want to unlock everything, drop another $30 or $40. It unlocks everything for you in the game, just right there. It gets it all for you. You have all the cosmetics. You have all the items that you want, any cool effects and stuff that you want there. Just let the person drop that. If they want to spend $100 to unlock everything in the game, then let them do that. And I think that would be a fine medium. I don't want to see where you have to like either spend an arseload amount of time or you have to drop a lot of money, which I mean, that's kind of what the case is, at least for MK11 right now, is that you either spend a lot of time playing this game consistently.
$7 worth of crystals to buy one intro.
Yes, it is.
One
it's like
character intro is
$5 of crystals for a costume, $7 for like intros. It changes depending on what it is. I think it's like $3 for brutalities and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's
$7 for brutality as well.
Oh, so okay, so then there you go. See, it's worse than I said it was.
Yeah, all these like individual things will just.
Yeah, it's crazy how Mortal Kombat lends itself to that with the finishers and all that good stuff.
Does. You like the silliest part was, and this blew my mind. I was like, why would they lock this? You can utilize them. I mean, you don't need to know them. As soon as you know the code for them, then you can utilize the second fatality. But the actual second fatalities for characters are locked within the chest and whatnot. You have to play the game to unlock your second fatality.
Oh, God. It's so bad.
That sounds so horrible. I'm like, big part of this game is the fact that you can use fatalities.
Yeah, that was like the cool thing back in the day. It's like why you wanted to play Mortal Kombat to figure out the fatalities and try to do them.
Yeah. And it's not to say that a game can't have you play to unlock stuff. It's just that the time to unlock these in this game is
exactly. If it was way more accelerated, then it wouldn't be such an issue.
Like if I had to spend $30 or 30 hours to unlock everything while playing through like story and stuff.
Yeah, that gives you something to do that's achievable.
Right. Like it's something you were going to do anyway, sort of thing, or want to do. Like
but it's actually, just to give you a point right now, like going through the story mode will unlock just a little bit. But apparently even playing online matches and stuff like that doesn't really unlock anything. It does not help you progress.
Crazy.
You really need to go specifically to the towers. Yeah. The Tower of Time.
That's crazy.
You have to run through those to really truly make any progress through it. You can meet some game criteria. There's like some little like missions you can do, like perform like 25 fatalities or whatever. That will show up and stuff like that, and that'll get players to at least do that during like the normal game stuff. But if you really want to make a dent in what is the crypt right now to unlock stuff, you need to do Towers of Time. And they do give you some tools. They'll give you like an AI that you can train and put points in towards to like how the AI plays and whatnot. But generally you end up just kind of leaving them alone for an hour. And there's even people who've already stated, like, if you can find a controller or a stick that allows you to like auto press continue for X, then just set that on, let the AI win, and then just let them go through the endless tower to see how far they can get before they're finally beaten.
Jeez.
And that's
Just
like,
go
the
to
best way
sleep
farm.
and leave your thing
Quite-
on.
Yes, that's quite literally what it is. They said just leave it on, and like you can come back to it every now and then just to check to see if it's gone through it again. You can leave it on for like an hour. An hour's time, I think somebody said they made almost about $5 worth of crystals for items. But that was after an hours of just the AI just playing through
Yeah.
it again. So,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
man.
it's something.
I mean, I'm curious to see if other devs or publishers, whoever it is, like will start like just the ridiculous time requirements. Because like right now, again, it's mostly I've really seen it from Warner Brothers, and I guess I think what was it, Star Wars Battlefield 2
Star Wars
also kind of had
Battlefront,
that one originally, which I know they drastically changed their stuff after the backlash. So
Yeah. EA did not help themselves on that one. But yeah, that's something thing. I mean, like I said, there's For Honor. A couple other studios have done it on more specific games than just a general idea. But it does, as you stated, Warner Bros. Does seem to be kind of pushing towards this just as a general design philosophy, which I don't think it's for the best. I think there should be, again, I stick with the ideas that I really think that like if you just want to unlock everything, either like reduce the amount of time that it's needed. And then if somebody really wants to drop the money, give them like a $30 package option. Just let them drop that. And
Right.
if they really want to spend the money, just let them
Not
unlock all the
thousands.
cosmetics. Yeah, that seems really ridiculous. Most people are not going to stick around that long to play it. They just aren't, except for pro players. But that's because they go to tournaments for cash prizes, not to sit around and unlock $6,000 worth of cosmetics. So, but they are coming out with. They are, like I said, just to reemphasize on this, they are coming out with patches. They are listening to the players. They are going to be modifying things. They've stated that by the end of this week, as of this recording, they stated they will likely have a patch come out that will modify and change the rates of how things are gained and earned, and hopefully it's for the better. But this general design philosophy of a lot of time to get it locked is probably not something I want to see for the future.
Yeah, judging by the backlash, I don't know.
Yeah.
People might still do it if it makes money.
I'm sure they'll do
that's
anything.
what it all
that makes
comes down
money.
to.
Yeah, exactly. But
Money talks.
Yep.
Is it just like 10% of the people whining really loudly, and are more majority of the people okay to just spend money on it?
People who are complaining on the internet are the
generally the
minority.
loudest voices are the minority voices.
Yeah.
It's really rare when you get a majority, but when it does, it's beautiful. So hopefully it's not the way of the future. But